He was the man who won World War II, a five-star general, a war hero adored by the American people. And yet, less than a decade later, the very president who helped put him in the Oval Office slammed the door in his face. Literally, Truman banned Eisenhower from stepping foot inside the White House. But why? What happened between these two giants of American power? The answer is far more personal and political than anyone could have imagined. And once you hear what Truman said behind closed doors, you'll never look at Eisenhower the same again. Because what started as admiration ended in betrayal. It began in 1945. Truman had just inherited the presidency after FDR's death, and the war was still raging in the Pacific. One of the first men he relied on was General Dwight D. Eisenhower. Truman admired his battlefield leadership, his charisma, his popularity. In fact, he offered to step aside in 1948 and let Eisenhower run as the Democratic candidate, a move so selfless, even Eisenhower was stunned. But Eisenhower refused, twice, and at the time, Truman respected that. Until things changed. Because by 1952, Eisenhower did run for president, but not as a Democrat. He ran as a Republican. Truman felt betrayed, personally, deeply, because Eisenhower didn't just oppose him. He attacked the very legacy Truman fought to build. The New Deal, NATO, Korea, everything. And when Eisenhower brought in Senator Joseph McCarthy, the man Truman hated more than anyone, things exploded. Truman watched from the Oval windows as massive crowds cheered Eisenhower. Not for the president who rebuilt Europe. Not for the man who ended World War II, but for the general who now campaigned against him, accusing Truman's administration of being weak, corrupt, and soft on communism. Truman felt the sting like a knife. He knows better, he snapped privately. He knows the truth. But he wants power more than loyalty. And then came the final blow. He let Senator McCarthy, the noisiest, most reckless accuser in America, savage Truman's closest allies. Men Truman entrusted with national security. War heroes, diplomats, public servants who gave all. Eisenhower stood on stage next to McCarthy and said nothing. Not one word in their defense. That silence was betrayal. Truman never forgave him. So after Eisenhower won that election in a landslide, Truman prepared to greet the president-elect at the White House. Tradition demanded hospitality, respect, the peaceful transfer of power. But Truman gave a different order. "He will not step inside my house," he said coldly. Instead, he forced Eisenhower to meet him outside. No welcome inside the residence. No tea, no warm congratulations. Truman kept the door closed. Eisenhower was sworn in. But he entered the presidency, knowing the man who helped build him now despised him. What began as admiration ended as rivalry. And what the American public saw as a clean transition was, behind the scenes, one of the coldest personal feuds in presidential history. A general became president. But a president decided he didn't belong in his house ever again.